Hello, my dog lovers. Hi. I am here today because we have a really interesting topic to share. I would like to welcome Alicia, one of my team members. I know that the camera has been turned off, Alicia, so you can turn it on.
Hi, I'm sorry. I tried doing that, and for some reason, it's not cooperating.
Oh my goodness! So
Yeah.
let me just disable it. Or enable it, not disable it. There you go.
Okay, there we
Hi.
are. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday.
We have a little bit of a challenge with lighting in my house because as time progresses and fall is nearing, we have the sun right in our living room, and it may become a little funny. So, Alicia, if you can let me know if I'm totally glared. If you hear any crunching in the background, that's Pax crunching on his lamb shank bone. He has been very good this morning when I was preparing this little talk, and I gave him a little reward. So he's very, very happy, but a little noisy with the crunching, and I didn't have time to move him. Anyway, today is going to be a little different because I'm going to move again. The sun is following me. Oh, my goodness. Today is going to be a little different because we will actually give some of you an opportunity to attend and come on Zoom. If you don't know what Zoom is, maybe we can actually tell you later and you'll be able to attend next time when we have something like that. But if you are familiar with Zoom and if you would like to share some of your opinions after this little talk, I would really like to welcome you, and Alicia and also Christina, who is in the background, will help you come in. So today our topic is animal equality, whether humans, and the question whether human lives are more important and valuable than animals. And I know some of you who have lived with dogs know the answer right away, but many people don't. And I would like to tackle this issue and look at it a little bit more in detail. Lately, I've been writing a few newsletters and articles about animals and their role in our lives, and what we do when others do not accept them. I know that for most of you, the question is really clear and simple. Animals have a very important place in our life. You know, I've noticed that some people really look at us dog lovers a little crazy when I share with some of my friends that I feed my dog human grade food. They think I'm crazy. If I show them a dinner like that for Pax, they really will think that I am not with it. Why would you, number one, they ask, why would you give a dog human ingredients when there are so many people who need food? And number two, why do you go into the length of doing that when you can actually put a kibble in the bowl? I'm not going to be talking about kibble today because that's another issue, and you know where my opinion is, or most of you do. But when it comes to the question whether dogs should be getting human grade food, I would like to ask another question. Is it possible that the construct of humans being or feeling superior is ours and not anyone else's? It's not natural sense. You know, the funny part is that this morning I was looking for a picture of all the animals of the world, and I'll show you what I found. I found an image where there were all the animals in the world, or kind of most of them that we know and are familiar with, but there was one animal missing, and that was human. Why did we actually come to some sort of conclusion that we actually are not an animal and that we are kind of separated from that? Well, the origins of that are in religion partially, and also because we humans needed to have some sort of sense or reason why we can take advantage of the animals. So that's why the construct of animals being less important and animal lives being less important than humans are actually, they exist and they survived. But we know that there have been many, many constructs about inferiority and superiority of races and genders and so on. Unfortunately, we've been still dealing with this. I know that my American friends have been in the middle of a very, very challenging situation, and in Canada it's the same, and in Europe it's the same as well. It's a serious problem, but I think that it does stem from the idea that somehow one group is more important than another. And it really starts with the animals. And if we start looking at our species as equal, then we'll be actually a little happier, I think, overall as a society. You know, the only difference between animals and humans is that we have a better ability to get organized. Now, some people will say that we are smarter than animals. Well, think about earthquakes, think about tsunamis, think about natural catastrophes, think about animals being able to navigate over continents. Like, you know, most people would get lost without a navigation system in their car. And look at birds, look at animals, like amazing, amazing, amazing. The fact that we actually have a better ability to get organized and, in fact, better ability to destroy this planet doesn't necessarily make us superior. And we really need to come to a point of humility and gratitude for being able to be there, but also being able to share the environment with all the other animals and our dogs, of course, as well. So, you know, the contrast of human brain and humans and what we've been able to kind of achieve is kind of mind-blowing. This morning I was thinking, so how can I kind of portray that? And then I found this beautiful photo of Venice. And I'm thinking, like, every time I go to Venice, I've been a few times because I go to visit my family in Europe, I am mind blown. How is it possible that human beings can actually create something so beautiful with harmony in the environment and you know, and make it so beautiful? And then how is it possible that we actually throw trash around and act like humans? I don't want to say act like animals because that's really unfair to the animals. Act like humans in the worst mode of operation, right? But then we also have to kind of look at another thing. When we look at what we've constructed in this world and what nature has built and how the world would be without us, which picture do you like better? Where would you like to actually be if you have time off? Maybe some of you are city people, and I understand, but after a while, we go crazy in the environments that we've created. So, you know, the human brain, just going back to the human brain is amazing. It is a tool. It can be used in a positive way and a negative way. It allows us to get better organized and collaborate, which is amazing. It allows us to invent things, but it does not make us superior, because we've learned in the course of human history that we are an animal that competes for food and territories, and we're basically just a little different monkeys. And that's a hard thing to say, but it is kind of true. We are monkeys who have been a little less fortunate to kind of have a bigger brain, right? So you know, every time I look at this picture of Sky, our previous dog, who was with us for 16 years, 16 amazing years, I am reminded of that wisdom. You know, you look in the eyes and you go, wow, you know, there's so much knowing without really boasting, without being all cocky about it, without feeling superior or narcissistic about their beauty, their smarts, their whatever. And then, in contrast, there is the how we kind of use animals and abuse animals. We now obviously we've come to accept that slavery is not okay anymore in people. That genders are equal. At least we strive for it, and in most places in the world, it is the case, or in many places, probably not most, but many. But when we look how we kind of use animals and why we created the construct of them being inferior is quite surprising. And when we start thinking about it, we know that change needs to happen. When you look at animals of all sorts of different kinds, I used to love riding horses when I was a teenager, and I stopped. And the reason why I stopped was that I just did not like the notion of me riding on the back of another animal that really loves to be free, doesn't like to pull or carry things. I love this picture. I know that most dog lovers feed their dogs meat, and I feed my dog meat. I don't necessarily feed pork, but it's not for religious reasons. It's more for the fact that it may carry parasites that are hard to detect sometimes. But when it comes to us eating meat and our dogs eating meat, there is one big difference. The difference is between whether we can thrive and survive on meat versus our dogs. It would be very weird, a giraffe eating a steak, right? It's a very weird thing for a dog to eat grain. Like, I've never seen dogs or wolves eating grain in a field. We do, or pet food companies do feed that, but it's not their preference, and it's not what they would normally eat. But we do have a choice, and we can somehow and somewhat reduce the meat consumption. I, as a veterinarian, was trained in hygiene of food production, which included regular visits to slaughterhouses and inspecting meat. It made me very leery about the whole industry, and I have been kind of fluctuating, or was fluctuating, between eating meat, not eating meat, and now I just basically ended up with plant-based diet because it works so well. I feel good. I don't have any problems with sugar levels or cholesterol levels or anything like that. Bizarrely enough, you may think that protein and meat diet actually prevents diabetes. It actually affects insulin metabolism, and you can do some research. It's actually a problem. But anyway, I don't want you to feel guilty about eating meat, but I just want you to be aware of the fact that we can do better. And there are many people who have kind of gradually switched, and even reducing 1 day a week makes a difference. And once again, this is not to kind of put the people who eat plant-based diet on pedestal or the other ones off the pedestal. It's more about just kind of being aware, right? Being aware of what's going on, and understanding that we have to be grateful for the animals and to the animals, and that we should try and strive to find some alternatives for humans. When it comes to dogs, I'll always be ridden by guilt that we are feeding meat or meat-based products to our dogs. It's not ideal, but I know that they can't really maintain their health without it. So I'm going to share screen again. When it comes to us accepting animals as sentient beings, I think that New Zealand already has done that. And I know that many Western countries kind of have introduced laws that really consider animals a lot. In Germany recently has introduced a law, or will be introducing law, or at least they mentioned that they will be, or are in the process of that, that dogs should get actually minimum of one half an hour walk twice a day. So an hour of dog walking, otherwise you can be legally responsible, or you can be punished for not walking a dog. Just about 2 weeks ago, we went to the Rocky Mountains. It's one of my favorite trips of the year and a lifetime. Every time we go to the Rockies, I'm blown away by the beauty of the mountains. And of course, we used to take Sky, our previous dog, until 2016, I think. And then Sky passed away in 2017. Then we were dogless and we were going without a dog to the mountains. And it was really awful. I didn't like it at all. And this year we took Pax on. Now Pax was so happy. It's really hard to actually describe how, well, you know how it is to see a happy dog. Anyway, so we've seen many people. We've seen many people who really had a lot of fun with Pax, but there were also some people who didn't like Pax. Now this is Sky. This is from one of our hikes in the past. But there are also some people who would say, "But Peter, you were in a national park and you had your dog off leash on the lake." Or there would be people who actually were upset that my 15-year-old dog wasn't totally 100% perfect and jumped on a few people on the hike. And we were working on it. Actually, we were quite successful. In the last few weeks, we've been progressing nicely. But I understand that if there are certain bylaws or laws that we should follow them, but quite often they do not make a lot of sense. If I have 100 people on the lake and they're like barbecuing and throwing trash around and cans and so on, and I take my dog and I let him wade in the lake, not disturbing anyone else, I think that this is just a normal, sensible thing to do. I really disagree with the notion that dogs should, in some areas, live their lifetime on leash. I do not think that we can achieve good health. And if we really accept the fact that animals are sentient beings and that they have certain needs, then, it is impossible for us to maintain and give them what they need on the leash. So I make choices sometimes where I feel it's reasonable and sensible, sometimes on leash, sometimes off leash, but want to make sure that my dog is well trained and that, if he does misbehave once in a while, that I apologize or I address it. I don't really just let it slide. It's like flying on a plane and having kids around crying the whole length of the flight. We just kind of accept it as something that is human, to be tolerant and not to be too upset about it, right? Like we may not like it, but it's just the way it is. Now, on that hike in the Rockies, we run into a person who was very adamant that Pax should be on leash for the 80-kilometer of total hiking that we did that week. It's about 55 miles or so for my American friends. And I thanked him for his comment, and I put Pax on the leash for some time, made sure that he's not walking with those people, but at the same time, I also let him off leash. And one of our friends in the group was basically unhappy about it. And I explained it to him that I feel that animals cannot be healthier and happy without being off leash, and that sometimes the constructs that we created are not really sensible, and that people who make these bylaws or laws just don't really have a good understanding. Now, I forgot to tell this man one thing that was really important, and I just didn't think about it at that time. He gave me the speech about how animals and dogs would kind of damage the environment, and that it's fragile, and that it's super important for dogs either not to be there or be on a leash. While we were standing at the glacier that receded several miles since the early 90s, and he was there with 3 kids that produce several dozens of tons of carbon dioxide every single year. Now, if a person like that starts lecturing me how my dog is environmentally unfriendly and how he should not be allowed off leash or enjoy the environment on trail, staying on the trail, I will obviously disagree because it's the proverbial foot in the mouth, right? The white elephant in the room, where we think that we can kind of have our little vanity projects, like, say no dogs allowed, or here, no birds allowed, or whatever else, and then we kind of serve the environment. We take it in our hands and we destroy it, and we feel all very up on the horse. And we feel very good about having these little control flip outs, right? Well, they don't really make a difference. They really don't make a difference. What makes a difference is if we stop producing carbon dioxide, or if we stop polluting or throwing plastic around at the lake. It's very clear that dogs are not the problem, and I will always continue defending. I will always defend them, and cannot really stop, because it's just so clear that we have. it's just wrong what's going on. I wanted to show you one other slide. I love pictures, and I sometimes go through the internet and see what I can find, and then I purchase these images because they are available for purchase, so they're not stolen. This is a really mind and eye-opening picture. You can see how deep the glacier is now, and this was the level in 1990. How much it has receded. And being on the glacier, if you've ever gotten the chance to be on the glacier, it's absolutely amazing. And I know that we all are guilty of two things. We all are guilty of contributing to environmental damage, no matter whether we're composters and drive electric cars, but we all fly from time to time, or we all do something that is actually not environmental friendly. And we all, unfortunately, participate in using animals to our benefit, whether it's leather shoes, or whether it's meat, or whether it's eggs or milk, or other ways, horse riding. That all is using the other species. Now, I don't want you to start pouring ashes on your head, because we are humans and we're learning. And even though some people try to convince us that the world is actually not as good as it used to be in the past, I actually think that it is getting better, but it's always very much a zigzag road to better. It's up and down, and a lot of challenges are still ahead. But I would like to encourage everyone to kind of think of the animals as sentient beings who do have the rights to enjoy this planet as much as we do, but in a way where we don't really take everything over. Who says that a dog has less of a right to a beach than humans? Well, humans did. It's not any different than when people said Black people or people of color could not come to a beach that the white people went to, or to a store on a bus. It's not any different than when heterosexual people say, gay people are not allowed to do what they love to do. Who says so? Some sort of stuck-up white guy? Or for religious reasons? I'm sorry, but this is not really what I can ever agree. And that's why I think that the beaches and the access to beaches should be proportional to the number of households with dogs and other pets. Now, I looked for the stats and they were varying a little bit, but it's pretty clear that more than 40% American in Canadian households and similar numbers in Europe, probably in other parts of the world where pets are acknowledged and loved. More than 40% households own pets. And because, as far as I know, you pay taxes, you participate in the society, you have the right to be heard. And because you live with dogs, you have the right to at least 40%, proportional 40% of the public spaces, parks, mountains, beaches. And I'm sure that many other non-dog people who don't have dogs because their rental situation doesn't allow it or something else, another form of discrimination, other people would love dogs to be around. And when I hike in the mountains or when I take packs out, I can see how many people love having dogs around. So this is actually the core. The problem is that the complainers are much louder. And the complainers may be complainers just because they like to complain and boss other people around. They may be afraid of dogs, or culturally, they may not be used to dogs, or maybe they come from a country where there's rabies among dogs, or dogs are quite aggressive or problematic. And because they're not looked after, cared for. And their population is not controlled because the society just doesn't have the capacity, or it's not at that level. The problem is that the complainers go and complain, and they're much louder because they're less happy usually. Complainers are on average less happy. And the officials listen to them. You know how if you work in the service industry, you will have 10 happy people in a day, and then there's one person that is unhappy, and you will obsess and focus on that unhappy person and see how to make them happy. This is why we have so many signs. This is why we have so many restrictions on dogs in public places. When I go to Europe, I can take my dog to restaurants and trains and to the mountains, and everything is fine, because the society is kind of used to it. Weirdly enough, to be fair, I have seen banks or legal offices and offices in general not allowing dogs, which is kind of strange, but restaurants and mountains are. In North America, it's a little different. It's the opposite. We are able to take dogs to, where are we able to take dogs? I'm trying to think. This is weird. Well, to the banks and offices usually. That's what I wanted to say, but otherwise it's pretty dismal. So it's interesting how the complainers actually gain traction, and because someone whines and complains or is rightfully fearful of dogs, we dog lovers are restricted with our dogs to the point where we have to go and take our dogs to these fenced-in ghettos. And also, dogs are not really used to being with other dogs. They're not used to socializing. It causes problems. Like I personally very rarely take packs to dog park because there's so many problematic dogs. Like it's like you put 100 people in one small room, right? Like dogs, I have not seen the same issue in Hawaii or Europe. Dogs are just kind of able to interact, and they're more dispersed, and they also are better socialized. So it doesn't happen that a dog would be on the leash and another dog is approaching it starts going crazy. These dogs actually, most of them, some of them may be aggressive, but most of them actually let the leash go. You let dogs socialize and they're fine. I've done that a few times in my practice when I felt comfortable, because I know dogs quite well. So I felt comfortable to let a dog that supposedly was aggressive off leash on the walk that I would make with my client. And it was mind blowing. Most of the dogs would just go like, bah, 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 and then they would be fine. Of course, there's a difference. There are some dogs that have behavioral issues similar to people. There are some, people who are mentally and emotionally disturbed. Dogs may be in that category too. But the dog ghettos, what I call them, are not a solution. And I just think that it's just aggravating the problem. It's aggravating behavioral problems, and also it does not allow dogs socialize on general casual basis with other dogs, mixed with kids and people and so on. This is my kind of version of paradise. I took this picture this spring. I was blown away. Like you can see, there's like probably about 7 dogs with plus minus, I don't know, on this picture. If you start looking, it's like a little puzzle. But you can see that these dogs, some of them are on leash, some of them are off leash. The owners are very responsible. There are kids playing ball. Like no dogs are actually biting their ankles. Like everyone is fine. It is really, it was just like the right song for my heart when I saw that. It was just like so amazing to see. And it is possible. You know, dogs that are given freedom, they actually do act better. Like so often people tell me, your dog is so well behaved, he's so social, he's so friendly, Pax has never actually been really upset with other dogs. And I know that some dogs may be a little higher strung, but the more we let them socialize without involving our own fears and emotions, the better they are. And I know that there are some behavioral issues, and we do need experts for some of those. And I'm not really even saying that every dog should be off leash, because you know your dog. But there's also another opinion that I often hear. Well, dogs should be on leash because my dog is aggressive and I don't want other dogs to approach it. Well, ideally, other dogs should not approach the dog on leash, but it is kind of a dog thing to approach dogs and sniff them and say hi. I do not think that it is a solution to punish all the dogs or restrict all the dogs just because a few dogs are aggressive. It's just not a solution. Would you like a police officer or the law enforcement coming to your house and saying your neighbor committed a crime, you're going with us? Or your neighbor is on house arrest, you're going to be on house arrest too? That's just not a solution. And I know that there are situations that probably are tricky and challenging, and I do have a lot of empathy and compassion for those of you who live with dogs that are angry, or they may be rescues and they have behavioral issues, but it is not a solution. Now, the other problem is that some dogs, and I have some people, and I have one person like that in a family, an extended family, suffer from cynophobia, which is basically fear of dogs. It is a condition that is similar to fear of heights or fear of other animals, fear of flying, whatever it is. We do need to be respectful of people with those conditions, absolutely. But I also observe that sometimes parents, and it has to start, Alicia, before we started today's talk, she says, you have to mention that it has to, animal relations have to be built from childhood. People and kids have to actually parents will have to try to train their kids to be gentle to animals, to get used to animals. Obviously be careful, but make sure that they are in contact. I do see some kids actually really, being afraid of dogs just because their parents are afraid of dogs, or maybe they were afraid of a dog once and they were picked up, and now they use it as a little handle for the parents to get attention, right? And I would say, and I dare to say that some adults actually use it as an attention-getting tool. So we have to make a difference, or we have to distinguish between cynophobia and the fear that is unreasonable. And then as dog lovers, we have to be respectful, but take opportunities and show kids or even adults that the dogs are really kind. And the same as in people, most of us are good, well-meaning beings, the same with dogs. They just don't really want to fight. They don't like conflict. It is just when they get messed up or when they're traumatized. So what are the solutions? There's so many solutions that we could come up with, and that's why I would like to actually invite you for the conversation, and we hopefully will get some other people on line here and on camera. But I do think that we should strive in our communities and municipalities to have equal representation, or at least 40% of the parks and beaches accessible to dogs. And I know that there's going to be probably additional 20, 30, or maybe more percent of the population not minding their dogs. I've been to some beaches where really dogs are welcome, and there are kids and mothers and adults and seniors. And it's such a happy place. It's so lovely. We are taxpayers. We are equal to the others who don't have dogs, and we hope that our lifestyle is going to be respected. But we cannot do it in a forceful way. We have to kind of start negotiating and talking to people, and see where it goes. I also suggest that we should give people a little more credit for behaving well and right. I would say dog lovers generally are very respectful. In most places, people pick their poop, or not their poop, but their dog's poop. And I think that we should just kind of see how it goes. Fairly recently, I read an article on whether humans actually behave better when there's a lot of law enforcement or not. And the conclusion was that the less force there is, the better. Now, it makes complete sense because we're not much different than the teenagers. We're just grown-up teenagers. We don't like to be forced. We don't like to be told constantly what to do. We don't like to be restricted. How many people do you see on beaches and parks with a little paper bag thinking that nobody knows that they're drinking alcohol, and no alcohol, please? But in Europe, there's no restrictions, and I haven't seen really as many drunk people in the park and on the street, right? So the funny thing is, the less we are restricted, the better. So, the law enforcement, and once again, I know that this is a very sensitive and contentious issue, and I don't want to really go into what's been happening in the last few weeks politically. But law enforcement has the word force in it, and we don't like to be forced. And our society has to come to some sort of realization that if we give people freedom, they will act better. Because it is normal and natural for our species to want to be part of the society and part of the community. And if he misbehave, we're going to be ostracized and ousted. We don't need a police officer to tell us, right? And I find that this is actually the point where we really need to trust that people are responsible, and dog lovers are responsible. I took this picture some time ago. It's from Maui. It was my dream to take Sky, our first dog, to Maui and spend usually part of the year there. It was so much fun because dogs are still pretty free there, even though the official rule is that they should be on the leash. Somehow everyone respects that. And I think that the leash law is mainly to protect others and everyone, just in case there's a trouble, right? Then it's pretty clear who's responsible for the misbehavior. But dogs are off leash a lot, and everyone loves it. Oops, I'm just kind of sorry, I lost the screen here. Maybe you didn't. Before we started, I thought I should look up all the dog movies, like how many, and this is just 2019, and I got like dozens and dozens. I was thinking, wow, isn't this a clear proof that we love dogs and that they should be actually part of our society in a more respectful way? And the other thing is that just about last weekend, I went for a hike, and there were no restrictions. We went for a hike, my partner and I, and there were no dog restrictions. And it was mind-blowing. Number one, there was no junk and garbage around. As opposed to the people-only parks and places, I always found cans or plastic. Here, nothing. Second, there were many, many dogs. No fights, respectful behavior, awesome connections. Dogs connected us. they were able to kind of be the connecting element, when you're a little hesitating to talk to another person, and there's a dog, you start conversation right away. How old is your dog? Where did you get him? La 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 la. And 20 minutes later, you still talk. It's really fun. There were no doggeroos. I found no dog poop. And to be honest, if there's a dog that strays somewhere in the bushes and fertilizes the tree, well, nothing really happens. It's actually the tree probably celebrates, right? If we could. So again, it was a really great experience, and that only reaffirmed my belief that there is hope, but also that we have to take a little different approach, and that we also should not succumb to the complainers just because they like to complain and they are visible and obvious. And those who have different cultural beliefs, well, maybe we can educate them. Maybe we can actually be compassionate and teach them. I see these rays of light in different parts of the world, even in societies that would be considered very dog unfriendly, like in China, in communist China. I see people actually turning around recently. Thanks to Animals Asia, a very prominent rescue organization, and other organizations, the Chinese government outlawed consumption of meat, dog meat, which is a big step, even though it's not, not everything is done and solved, but it's a step in the right direction. Now, it is pretty clear that animals make us happier and healthier. And I think that if we do want to solve the problems of this world, that we should go from shopping and building mega homes and buying things that we don't need to embracing dogs and animals and good, healthy, simple life with them. It was Gandhi who said that the greatness of animals, of a nation, and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. And I can't agree more. I think the fact that we have seen a rise of restrictive signage and laws only shows where our society is heading, and that we have to stop this unfortunate trend before it's too late. Not just for our dogs, but also ourselves, because we are reaching a point where it can be, when we can turn around, or otherwise it will be a real mess. So thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, or if you have any comments, if you would like to come on, I will be watching here. And in the meantime, I'm just going to show you one more picture I've taken this morning with Pax. And once again, how can we think that animals are less than humans? Obviously, he's more handsome too, but look at the eyes. Like he's so amazing. And I know that you think the same thing about your dog. And thank you so much for caring and looking after your dogs, and also making the world a better place for them. Now, Alicia, do we have anything, anyone who wants to come on Zoom?
Thanks. We've had a couple of people inquire, so I believe Christine is going to send them, or has sent them, the link to see if they can log on and join us. And in the meantime, I guess, are there some situations that you might feel that there are good reasons to keep your dog on leash, like near busy traffic areas and that sort of thing? Like, when is it a really important and good idea to keep dogs on leash?
Of course. I'm just trying to adjust the shadow again. It's really tragic.
No problem.
Right.
While you're resetting up, like for me, I had an experience. I live in a townhome complex, where I live. And we do have a leash law whereby everyone that lives here or is visiting with a dog is supposed to have their dog on a leash. And to me, that makes sense because there's so much traffic. It's just basically a big driveway with cars coming and going. And there are some people that don't listen And there have been lots of close calls. One dog actually got scooped up by a snow removal truck that wasn't on leash and the owner wasn't paying attention. I've had both of my dogs on leash when I've just been heading out the door, and they've both, not recently, but been attacked by a dog that was off leash, that was not being supervised. And, you know, it was super traumatic for me and for the dog. So I think there's a time and a place where it makes sense. But as you said, there's also lots of opportunity where we can enjoy some freedom and space with our dogs off leash.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I would just say, let's use common sense. I put Pax on the leash when he's on the street because he's a puppy. And Sky used to go on the street absolutely 100% reliably without ever straying. But I think that if we use common sense, I have one advice. If you have that notion, that little thought that comes to mind, oh man, maybe I should put my dog on a leash, just do. And that's simple, right? Like, don't take chances, because I've seen so many people are regretting. Also, be careful when you're crossing the street or when you're at the corner, standing at the light, at a crossing. I had a client who actually, her dog got hit and killed by a driver who basically took a right turn and hit her dog, right? So I don't really know exactly what happened, but the dog actually stepped in the road, but those are tragic situations. And I just realized that now that I had 2 days ago, I had a dream of Pax ending up under a streetcar, right? So I woke up just terrified. I think that this is our fear, that we make a mistake and our dogs will end up killed. So that's something that we keep in mind. Just be safe and don't take chances. If your dog is, it's always better to kind of be safe than sorry, right?
Absolutely. And if you are needing to put a leash on your dog, to make sure you're attaching it to a harness that fits the dog properly and doesn't impinge the movement, versus attaching to a collar. I had an example recently where I was heading in to do blood work with Diesel, just to follow up from what happened a month ago. And when I got there, because of COVID restrictions, you're not allowed in. So they take the dog and go do what they need to do and bring it back. But they tried to put a slip leash on him versus just taking my physical leash. And I was having no part of it. I was like, if you have your own leash that can clip onto my dog's harness, that's great. But if not, I'm not okay with his neck being pressured like that. And straight away she agreed. She was like, yeah, no problem. She grabbed my leash and off they went. So again, it's really important just to advocate for your dog, even if you're kind of caught off guard. I know that they have these rules and regulations because they're trying to avoid issues with COVID, and I respect that and appreciate it, but always advocate for your dog.
I got it. And just we have someone actually waiting for us here in the room. So I'll be pressing the button very shortly. About the harnesses and leashes, of course, I talk about them all the time. We have created a solution for dog lovers. We import a perfect fit harness from the UK that is really amazing. It has 2-point attachments. And we also offer a gentle leash, which is a leash from natural materials, speaking of plastic and pollution, no nylon. And it's shock absorbing. And I am a big advocate actually using the front clip, either together with the front clip, or if your dog doesn't pull, just the front clip, that's fine. But it protects the structure of the neck, the thyroid gland, super important. If you have a dog on the leash, super important to use the right leash. I just rewrote a blog or article on retractable leashes, how harmful and damaging they are with the brake being turned on. It really creates a big jolt to the neck and damages the structures. Then dogs start licking paws and limping and becoming hypothyroid, and people don't really know. At the same time, the wrong harness can cause problems. We just had one of my friend's dog had a nerve injury from a leather harness that was surrounding the front leg, to the point where he actually was screaming. Nobody knew what was going on. And my friend finally brought her dog to me, and I just kind of looked at it and I thought, this is pressing too much on the nerves. And her little dog was really tiny, and there's no muscle to protect the nerve. And the nerve, probably there's a myelin sheet on the nerve, and that got probably damaged. And he basically had very serious nerve shocks whenever he moved, because the nerve was basically exposed. Anyway, let's get Stephanie. I think that Stephanie is waiting here. Stephanie, are you there?
Yeah, I think it's just connecting. I can see her name has popped up in my view screen.
I'm going to ask to start video, and I'm going to ask to meet.
Hi.
Hi. Hello, hello.
Connecting. I can see her name has popped up in my view screen.
I'm going to ask to start video, and I'm going to ask to meet. If you can, I'm hearing an echo. If there's anyone, if there's another computer going on, if you can reduce the volume maybe a little bit.
Reduce the volume on my end?
No, it's all good. It's all good now, I think. There's a little bit of a delay. The signal seems to be a little delayed. Hi, Stephanie.
Oh, we're out in the country, so everything's very delayed out here.
No problem. No problem. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Really nice meeting you.
You too.
I know your name from social media and so on. I just wanted to, do you have anything to say about our topic today?
I love the topic today. I think it's great. I think I'm out in Ontario, and dogs are very poorly socialized here. Very poorly. We're out in the country. So when I get a puppy, I bring the dog out to the city all the time, at least once or twice a week, to try and socialize. And with all of my dogs, we've had very poor experiences. And I actually have my youngest one that's 17 months old, who's now terrified of other dogs because of the encounters that she's had as a puppy.
I get it. I understand, because, you may have a well-socialized dog, but then there are the ones that actually are not socialized, and they are misbehaving. And that's why dogs need to start doing what they're supposed to do from very early on, right? Like being handled as puppies and so on. What kind of dog do you have? Do you have him nearby, or her?
I have 3 German Shepherds.
Lovely. Can we see them? Oh, I see one by the TV there.
There's 2. Mila. And then I have the baby who sits on the couch.
Oh my goodness. How
So
old?
sweet.
She's 17 months old.
17 months. So she's about 2 months older than Pax.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're just about from the out of the puppy stage, right?
No, we're still in the puppy stage. Very much in it.
I just got a really cool deal from Dr. Ian Dunbar. He was selling his whole library and training methods for $190, I think, online, and it's really worth it. I started using some of the training methods. He's all positive trainer, obviously a vet of many years, and really cool, actually, really cool suggestions there. So I'm really pleased. What are the biggest behavioral challenges that you're dealing with? See whether Pags has bigger ones.
We have a jumping issue with this one. She likes going up to meet people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
My other ones, nothing. They're 8 years old. I have one that when she licks, she nips at the same time, and it's not a bite, but she gets so excited that her jaw.
Yeah.
And but she's almost 9 years old, and she's done that her whole life. And
the jumping, I'm not a trainer and I'm not pretending to be, but the jumping up issue is the same for Pax, because as soon as you socialize dogs well and they're not afraid of people, they love people and they want to say hi. But I have been following the instructions of Dr. Dunbar, and what he says, he basically, teaches, he says, make a doggy training party and bring people in the house and teach them to sit when people are coming in, and make them come or go around several times, right, in a circle. And then the same thing on the street. And also have some sort of, I actually got a squeaky toy that I squeak, and then I know that I get his attention if there is some sort of emergency situation. He's off leash and he wants to jump on people. Within 2 days, I'm not kidding, he's actually not jumping. Like, he has not jumped on one person in 2 days. So it was just really, really cool. I'm really excited. I'm I'm hoping if anyone knows Dr. Dunbar, I'd like to have him on as a guest for some of these Facebook Lives or maybe an interview. But anyway, do you have any other anything else to add to our topic today?
No, I join every week, and I've sent you personal private messages on Facebook, and I just wanted to be able to say hello. That's all.
Yeah, it's so nice, and I love your dogs, and I can, I can see how they're looked after well, and you love them. And
they are. I think when you invite an animal in your environment, you have to respect where the animal comes from and what their history and what environment they would thrive in. So that's always been very important to me, is to offer them the best environment that they would have in nature if they were still living the way they were thousands of years ago.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for saying that. I really appreciate it.
I have one question. Your dogs are
for me, okay? Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Take care, bye-bye.
I think okay, Stephanie's jumped off. I have one question. And maybe we can close with this because it is 2 p.m. But how do you remember your childhood when it comes to animals? And what do you think really enhanced your love of animals based on your experiences? I'm sure everyone's got a story, but what really stands out to you? Because
Alicia, come
some
on.
of this, like, I know that your dad was a vet. My dad was a zoologist. So I was always surrounded by books about animals and stories about animals from the animals that he was looking after. And it was just always such a big part of the discussions at home. I'm just curious as to what was the seed that was planted initially that led you to where you are right now.
Weirdly enough, I think I remember that when I was in vet school, I was afraid of dogs, actually. We grew up with a dachshund. My dad had a passion for dachshund. He was a vet. And she used to bite us. She wasn't very nice to us. My dad called her the fifth child, his favorite child. And animals. So I started with horses actually first. And as a kid, growing up in the Eastern Bloc, parenting was pretty harsh, and physical punishment and all that was quite common. So I think that the first step towards animals was when I just kind of felt that was the safety for me. And I really fell in love with horses, and I rode horses. So that was really fun. And then I told my dad that I wanted to go to vet school, and he wanted me to become an architect. And in high school, we kind of had to register for some sort of vocational kind of direction. So he registered me to the construction and architectural direction, and I re-registered myself to the agricultural and animal section. And then, he helped me to kind of supported me through the school. So it was good. But I fell in love with dogs fairly late. I had a couple of cats, and let's be honest, I'm not a cat person. I respect cats. I love big cats. Little cats, I think that they're super sophisticated species because they have managed to wrap us around their paw and feed them and still be independent. Great. But I've become a dog person when I started working as a vet, actually, because I really, in a mixed practice, and I looked after a couple of border collies of my friends, and the rest is a history. Like, I just think that dogs are truly one of the most evolved, I'm not saying best, but one of the most evolved species on many levels when it comes to their ability to kind of care for others, their ability to be in tune, their ability to experience joy and happiness and fun and life in the simplest and purest form. So, that's my journey, and it still continues, obviously. But thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Alicia, for helping me to navigate through today's Facebook Live, and Christine.
Always a pleasure, for sure.
And for your commentaries as well. And thank you, Stephanie, for daring to come online because it was fun. And my apology about the light situation, but I'm gonna try to do something different next time. Anyway, take care. Bye-bye. Cheers. Have a nice day, evening. Bye-bye.